I could ask the panelists to make their way forward to the front of the room, I'd really appreciate that. And I was just bringing up the presentation now of the panelists. So who have we in the panel discussion? So we have from this morning and the various presentations, as you know, we have Axel. Axel, you're very welcome back. Gordana. Yeah, thank you, Gordana. Cyril, Elmar, and Chris. And also we have Mr. Des Cox joining us. Just before we go into the and I will let Des introduce himself in a few minutes. But just to go back to the first slide of the purpose of and setting the context for this panel discussion. We should have a slide on that. Oh, apologies. Yeah, super. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I suppose the context and motivation, obviously we've been hearing really good insights into, the importance of protecting our critical infrastructure, both onshore, offshore, the challenges around that because of various changes that we're facing, and these are only going to exacerbate. We're looking at long-term societal goals, and I suppose to me as an urban planner or a regional planner, I always put the citizen, the community at the forefront of everything that should really happen, because it's all about the people at the end of the day. So in part one of our innovative challenges part, we looked at the needs and requirements to secure sustainable futures and the sustainable future for our people. And then in the second element, we looked at solutions, and we saw some really interesting solutions just put forward by our four previous presenters. So what the objectives of this, what we want to gain over the next 35 minutes or so, we want to look at the involvement of stakeholders, from research to critical infrastructure owners and industrial partners. We want to identify associated challenges and obstacles within this research and innovation. We want to highlight innovation and improving resilience. And also we want to look at collaboration and exchange. And we've seen a lot of that today again in our presentations. So our panelists are, as you know them by from previously, but we also have the addition of Mr. Des Cox. Des, first of all, I want to thank you so much for making the effort to be here today. I know you had a pretty challenging and maybe innovative, seeing that we're in the space of challenging and innovation, experience of getting here last night. So firstly, I wanted to thank you for that. And just let you know, I know Des a long time. It must be 30 years almost at this stage. So we're old college friends. And I would let Des introduce himself and his area of expertise. Thank you, Des.
Thank you very much indeed. Des Cox is my name. As Billy says, we went to college together. He was a boy genius. He's only about 25 years old. I'm a bit older than him, but we've gone back a long way. And I head up the planning and environmental team in Airbridge, the Irish electricity transmission system operator. We work both in Ireland, but also as part of European grid initiatives, and where we work very closely with TenneT and other grid developers. But a bit like Billy, my area of focus and also area of interest is in the planning and the environmental side of the house, and we work very closely with the technical side. But the planning and environmental extends, and I lead the community engagement teams, the agricultural liaison officers with the landowners, and they become our core stakeholders in addition to the political regimes as well as the other technical stakeholders. So I suppose it's really great to be here. Billy mentions that I got to Frankfurt when the flight was cancelled, and I've been via Zurich and about 14 other European countries to get here. So it's been a real pleasure. But thank you.
Thank you. So how we've broken this down is we had a chat among ourselves last week, and we came up with 3 themes. We looked at the threats, the innovation, and the collaboration. We put some kind of almost, I suppose, kind of teasers for ourselves. But I suppose the most important part of this is we want to get your own interaction, your own views, your own questions, and even your own points or your own issues of concern. So please interact at any stage. It's very open now for the next 30 minutes or so. So looking at the first topic of discussion, looking at threats and the biggest threats that are facing CI, particularly in terms of resilience, the threats from the owners and the operators, the threats from ongoing development and advancement, and what is there, what can be done around these threats, and how can those threats be challenged and improved on. And I please feel free to interject or make points as we go along. But as I see it here, I'm just going to go along the panel and say, just from a general point of view, what are the threats in the resilience space facing yourselves? Martha, may I ask you first?
Especially technical-wise, because we reached a site with a 2 megawatt platform which is only installable by one ship in the world. And the large ship, we cannot do larger than we do now. The other way would be to install so-called islands, or so we call it North Sea Wind Power Hub was an idea to install artificial island or something like that in the North Sea. But nowadays there is a threat also. We never thought in the past about destroying such assets offshore because there is no security. If you remember the Nord Stream pipelines, and that's also an issue. And now we have initiatives with the federal police to protect such assets. That is also the issue. But technical-wise, we are, let's say, on a good approach. Also, there are new developments in let's see, in the size of the electrical equipment. Everything is shrinking and so on. And that's the reason why our platform is not twice as big as the 900 or 1 gigawatt platform. It is, let's say, 2/3.
Yeah. So be very mindful of those technical threats and adapting to that. Christopher, I could ask yourself, what threats are facing yourselves, particularly even within the Grow experience that you've evolved over the last number of years?
Yeah, my answer would be directed to the energy system because there's more concrete than saying something in general. But if I look to the energy system, we see that there's a major change. And the threat, just to say that we should avoid if we are going to solve the problems of yesterday and not the problems of tomorrow. And the problems of tomorrow is that the energy system is rapidly changing. So typically it doesn't very easy system, a top-down, say a hierarchy system, and the energy flows from one point to another. But today's system is completely different. The energy flows from the consumer to the producer and vice versa, and there are a lot of stakeholders involved. So we must be very careful that we take into account all the relevant positions of all stakeholders in tomorrow's solutions. Yeah. And we cannot just solve a technical solution and implement it anymore. We have to take on board all the stakeholders relevant.
Yeah, really interesting. And that would come forward hopefully in our third kind of theme of collaboration and the importance of those stakeholders and hearing their voice. Gordana, from your perspective, and you've seen from some of your examples of kind of road collapse and erosion, what are your kind of threats within your space?
I would be most concerned about the fact that we need to do the same work that we do now with tighter budgets and the shorter timelines. And I'm afraid that the pressure that is affecting all businesses will result in the fact that we might not prioritize long-term decisions, long-term adaptation to climate change timely. So that the worst thing that can happen is that we lose the flow activity, that we start working only reacting to events instead of
proactive. And we use in the space of resilience, what do? We often use the expression, instead of just in resilience bouncing back, but bouncing forward. and learning from the past. Yeah, really interesting. Yeah. And yeah, Axel, from your perspective.
Yeah. From my perspective, I would say the training of people is actually a thing that we need to overcome or to solve, basically. I remember from my 20 years ago research about reinforced soil and selecting the benefits and how well it performs. And after my presentation, somebody asked from the auditorium, but I was asked to design such a wall. And but I made a special proposal, and we made it with a very big reinforced concrete wall.
Yeah.
So in German we say, but the wall is finished. So people only, from my experience, people only apply things if they had contact with that beforehand.
Yeah.
So for the geosynthetic industry, I think things are being overcome by on pretty much every university in Germany. Somebody from the industry is giving their insight into to make sure that all the students and the next generation they know about the topic and about carbon footprint and things that are better for anywhere to anybody, of course. But we need to provide training courses and especially the timeline to do that. We need to accelerate that.
Yeah. So I suppose to ensure the trek is to overcome that barrier to ongoing detailed innovation and research from all the aspects, but particularly from academia. Yeah, really
to be able to deliver the right basis for actually doing the assessment properly.
Yeah, super. And I think Geolab, what's been achieved in Geolab and the projects that come forward, I think it's really, really kind of an exemplar in that space. Yeah. Des, from your side, looking at air grade and the Irish space, you mean, and what threats you're facing? You touched on obviously the stakeholder engagement, but any other areas as well?
Yeah, thanks. You're on this? Yeah. It's great coming at the end of the panel when you hear what everyone else is dealing with, because we share the similar things. But I think one of the biggest threats that we have combined is the short-termism, particularly in the political area and political commitments. You know, and Billy, you'll know in Ireland, we're expecting a significant government change over the next year. There's a lot of uncertainty in terms of what that means for commitment to very long-term, very expensive infrastructure resilience. The other thing that we're dealing with in Airgrid with our partners, ESB, is about having our entire infrastructure in the electricity grid is about 40 to 50 years old. It's coming to its end of life. We have to maintain, replace that existing infrastructure while keeping a live system traveling no different to roads, no different to other infrastructure. How do you continue to repair, or can we shut down that grid, to put in a brand new system while there is an ever increasing demand for that system, new energy users, high intensity users? Ireland's becoming hub for data centers and other high energy. So we cannot do that. How do we piece all these major jigsaw pieces together into a wider puzzle? Must be done by way of ring fencing infrastructure for non-political, and to have that legislative backing that, we have community challenges where we even mentioned earlier, how do we bring in nature-based design solutions? How do we let the environment grow, breathe while this infrastructure is developed? Often they've been bad bedfellows. And how do we bring all these? It must be by a strategic approach that has cross-political agreement and ring fence. So it's not, so that finances, so that people in industry can get that sort of assurance of a long-term goal.
Yeah. So that's kind of that we do in Ireland, and I'm sure it's no different in many other countries worldwide, that we have a very short-term political lifespan. They only think put into the next election, but infrastructure needs much, much longer term than that. And to you, Chris, finally, I don't know if the mic is.
Yes, I think one of the major threats is to fail at one point to make that, to adapt our facilities to growing hazard. So far, I think we haven't reached this point. improvement work are still being possible, but we can reach one point behind which it's not possible to adapt our facilities. So as I said, the challenge is to have a realistic level of hazard and a very efficient method of demonstration, calculation, and so on to have a realistic behavior of structure. And the second point maybe is for another challenge is for a new construction project is worry to reduce the environmental impact of a big construction project like at least for the power plant. So I said low carbon concrete and any other solution to reduce this need for resources and so on.
Yeah, so really interesting. And even coming to the fore there, I think of ESG straight away within those big national, international projects. So I think that gives a good kind of handle on the threats right across the different, say, owners, operators of infrastructure. We then had a discussion about what's innovation. We've heard a lot about innovation this morning, and how where can we take innovation? How can we receive and translate that into practice? And we've seen many examples of it today. And also, what are the biggest obstacles within the uptake of that, or for the uptake of that new innovation and that new, say, translation? I'm going to put this openly, so please, anyone who is, and I know you're all in the space of innovation, but does anything come to mind from your own work and from your own projects and your own engagements? How is innovation being translated, and is there obstacles to that innovation and the uptake of it? If anyone would like to start.
I could move the mic.
Yes, I was hoping you'd say that, Chris.
But especially if it's groundbreaking innovation in our industry, this innovation needs to be qualified, validated, and so on. So it takes time to take the innovation and to put it into practice. So I think that part of this qualification and justification, demonstration of the innovation should be also incorporated in the research work. I mean, the author of the innovation should take into account all the part of demonstration, which is sometimes done, but sometimes not sufficient for us.
Yeah.
So this is one point.
Yeah.
Maybe the second point is sometimes the difficulty to translate innovation into practice, and especially when they impact the way engineers used to work. It's just the management of a change, management of the habits and the way they work. So also it's time to change.
And infrastructure development and growth, and the innovation is multidisciplinary now. So it's not just about the engineer, and the different types of engineers. It's about much wider scope than that. And again, how we're innovating to develop for society. Thank you very much, Cyril. Yeah, Des, this is I'm coming back along the way. This is good.
I know you can wait to the end, Elma. But one of the interesting innovations that we've done, just building on that point, Billy, is the amount of collaboration in itself is an innovation. Traditionally in Ireland, say ESB, EirGrid did the grid. Now our innovations are with our water network, or with all the other state infrastructure providers. As a matter of course, it sounds obvious, but that's a huge innovation. One particular innovation that we're looking at, and I'd agree with you, Cyril, in terms of that you look at all this wide range, is we're now commencing a whole series of evidence-based environmental impacts assessment studies across all the topics for environmental impact, but of the existing grid. That is the model, because it's EIA has always been a predictive, what would it be? And we've talked all morning about the uncertainties of this. We can look at the existing grid, we can look at other infrastructure and say that is the impact, and that, so what we are hoping to influence our consenting authorities saying is, you now know the existing impacts. when we come to you with new proposals, new innovative proposals, you know that what the baseline is.
Yeah.
And it's been a major advantage. We're working with our technical partners, so we're looking at everything, every aspect of modelling, technical modelling, flood risk modelling, to build up that evidence base, and that will form the basis for our next 10 years of development. It is onshore, and I'd love to hear Elmar, because we're dipping our toe in the water to pick up the plan of offshore. And we need to do the same, learn from our European partners around an evidence base for offshore grid development as well.
Yeah. I think.
So it's already said.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah. Axel, yeah.
Yeah, as an especially I think in public transportation, we have the different as private investors or owners. We do have to stick to standard codes very much, and thinking about innovation. I think indicated mentioned that already. Innovative methods need to find their way in the standard codes, which takes sometimes quite a while.
Yeah.
And this is somehow restricting us for doing so.
Yeah.
So in our case, we need to we can get Zustimmung im Einzelfall, an agreement
Yeah.
for a single case, but that takes some effort. Depending, it might be a quick one,
Yeah.
but it might be a long way to go, a couple of months. Maybe a
Yeah.
year. So
from hearing you right, flexibility within standards is critical.
yeah.
Who allows for really good innovation.
Of course, there's a good point about it, because we want to construct it safely and
Yeah.
securely,
Yeah.
but somehow we need to overcome that.
Yeah. Very interesting. Gudana, from your perspective.
Well, I would just like to underline the fact that there's no limits for where innovation can come from.
Yeah.
There's a lot that can be done on the financial things, on procurement, the insurance companies, the banks, loans, anything that can motivate for long-term thinking instead of short-term thinking.
Yeah.
Is any area of work is welcome to bring up some.
Yes. Yeah. And we got examples of that, as you say, no restrictions to innovation throughout the various presentations this morning. You know what I mean? That the type of innovation that's happening against the challenges, but also then against the opportunities. Really good. From yourself perspective, Chris, and I know there's huge innovation going on within Grow. I can just imagine what's coming forward.
Yeah, and you said just flexibility and standardization. Sounds a little bit like a contradiction to me.
Yeah.
Because standards is just, you do it as it is a standard, and you don't deviate from it. And you say we may deviate from it. But it is exactly the point what we also face, that we do a lot of new procedures or products or methods. But it's very hard to get into the market, because there's a lot of conservatism from the insurance company, from the project developers, from the installation companies. Nobody wants to take the risk from a new innovation, because it can go wrong. And what happens then? And typically, the offshore turbines are as big as the Eiffel Tower nowadays. So you want to be sure that what you do is going okay. But the drawback is that you are not so willing to have, for instance, a new foundation technique to install it, because it's just too risky. Although it has been shown that it is less costly, less faster, and things like that. So we have to make sure that getting a system that we allow also innovative techniques to be applied.
Yeah. And I say growth, if I'm understanding correctly, it can be I use the term safe space or a safe place to do that type of innovation and flexibility within it.
Yeah, but that is typically the development and the testing and sometimes the demonstration, but that is still not the implementation into the market. And that part is the value of that part. We are not within growth because we don't have the capacity for that. But that is a very important part, and we have to solve that to have fast and new techniques into the market.
Yeah. So there's an obstacle there, guys, for whoever wants to get involved in Grow, again, can look at that. Elmar, from your perspective, the innovation and the translation.
There is so much innovation. Maybe from civil engineering, the part in my sector is less compared to all the electronic stuff. For instance, to make the net stable, there is a lot of power electronics. If you switch off coal power plants which stabilize the net, you have to compensate that. And we have a lot of research guys do all these stuff with the power electronics to stabilize the net. And I didn't show a slide. So all the ideas to have let's say, an offshore mesh grid between the Netherlands, Denmark, Germany, the UK. This is not only on paper. That will become a reality. And that's the innovation. For sure, approval in single case, Zustimmung im Einzelfall. That is if you have something which is not classified. For instance, grout. If you grout it, has a grout connection between pile and pile sleeve. It's hard to look into it, and there are new techniques like fiber optics. So there are projects like Grout Watch, was a research project in Germany, and this will be implemented maybe in the codes and standards. But to find the way into the standards, and if you have authorities which are working very slow or conservative, it will take years to make it happen.
Yeah, really interesting. The last theme that we came up with was about collaboration, improving this collaboration space between research and engineers, but also getting stakeholders involved. And we spoke about some of these already up here. And I'm very conscious that we've a very esteemed audience as well. So please do raise your hands and ask any questions or give any interactions that you feel. We'll be only delighted to hear from you. But just in terms of that collaboration, between the research and delivery, and also key stakeholders, I don't know if would anyone randomly like to just jump in there and give their opinion on how you're dealing with collaboration and moving that forward.
I just gave a presentation how to deal with such a collaboration, but I wanted to say something very short, that I also want to expand the first sentence also with the companies, with those who are really putting that into the market, not only the engineers, but also those who pay for it.
Critical. Good evening, Angelina.
No, collaboration is really very, very important. Sharing of knowledge, but also sharing data. Data is increasingly important, and when it's available for others, when it can be compared, when you have a basis that you can extract data from and do some comparative work there, that is, of course, enriching all the environments that are in the areas.
And just talking about the sharing of data, I was very enthused when we had the presentations yesterday on the next round, and we heard from Sam from Cambridge, and the innovation they're doing. And Sam was saying everything is open source. Please use it, please take it and advance it. And I was really inspired by that. So that sharing of data is really important. Yes, Des.
No, it's just really adding to that the in Ireland now, the Irish Marine Institute is now operating a project called Infomar. It's research vessels, and they're doing exactly that. We are a new foray into, as I say, into the Irish Sea, into the Celtic Sea, into our west coast. We have a huge offshore potential. At the moment, we have 7 different arrays in our phase 1, which is the east coast. 7 different consortiums have done 7 duplications of studies because they will not rely on a competitor's data, even though it's exactly the same. So the time and expense of this, so the Marine Institute under the government initiative has said, right, we're collecting on that and portals are opening. In our grid space, we collaborate hugely on the Renewables Grid Initiative, and if anyone's interested in that as a model for collaboration, it brings together the grid operators and NGOs so that we can all collaborate both on technical matters, but also on environmental areas of concern. And the RGI, based in Berlin, is now extending that into the offshore with what they call the Ocean Initiative, the Offshore Coalition for Environmental and Nature. what we're finding as well in Ireland is, as I mentioned, that grid, which was historically put a little fence around it, that in terms of looking at that, we're collaborating with roads infrastructure, with our roads. How do we work better together with Transport Infrastructure Ireland to, both on research and in terms of design, and to make sure that both can hold it, similar with water infrastructure. So this model for collaboration is going. The big area that isn't in the collaboration space, as I mentioned before, you might see a common theme there, is our government in terms of who is leading from behind, and it's leading to that uncertainty. So we can push the whole way forward, and then we find ourselves at a point where we can't move. And also our regulator, who won't release us funds to look at this research and innovation. So we do need to address those.
Yeah, an interesting challenges there. Thank you there, Cyril.
Yeah, obviously the research program which covers industrial and research laboratory are a good way to improve the collaboration. I would just highlight the thing that sometimes we may have some difficulty of collaboration because researchers and engineers don't speak the same language. And I'm not talking about Norwegian, English, or French. It's just research language and engineer language. Sometimes they don't have the same time scale.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't have the same interest or the same goals.
Yeah.
So what we experimented within EDF between our research and development department and our engineering department is kind of a return journey ticket for instance, a researcher to go to work for a few months, 1 year, 2, 3 years in an engineering department, and then go back, or not. Sometimes they stay in engineering, but maybe go back in the laboratory. And we have experimented that so within EDF, and it worked quite well. It smoothed very well the collaboration between the research development department and our engineering department. So maybe extended and generalized between industrial and laboratory.
That flexible space.
Okay. We have also, as a company, a social responsibility, and for the first time, you saw the timeline that we are 4 TSOs in Germany, and now 2 joined also the market.
Yeah.
And because we have that timeline with the 2 gigawatt each year platform, we shared all our knowledge to the competitor.
Yeah, wow.
And they build it to our master plan.
Yeah.
Only to reach the social goal to have the energy transition happen.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting and powerful. And very conscious of time. I don't know is there any 1 or 2 questions from the audience? If we had one, if not, I'd like to thank our panelists. It's been really enjoyable. The time has just flown by. I think we're 40 minutes in, and it just went like that. We had another slide on any discussion points or questions. I think we've kind of moved into that space anyway. But from me and from Geolab, we'd really like to thank you so much for your time, your inspirational thoughts, and your really powerful discussion. So thank you so much, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much, I'm sure, as the audience has, because I definitely have. Thank you. So I think now we have lunch, and